Hello, everybody. All right, so there's some things I want to go over that I want to discuss and kind of put some information or some ideas out there. I got quite a few different ideas that I want to express over a number of videos, but in this case, I want to address the Black community here in the United States. So times are totally different now than when I was a child and when most people my age was a child and before me. And there were things that some of us were accustomed to, or got to live through more peaceful times, not so chaotic times. Mainly before the crack epidemic. You know, as I stated, in other videos, I'm from Philly. So back then, I mean, there was a time when you can walk up and down the block, know who your neighbors were. I know purse snatchings and stabbings were kind of big back in the day, but like all the violence that's in Philly, all the craziness and the drugs and stuff, it wasn't that bad. Then we had the crack epidemic, and if you go to Philly now, I know there are some areas of Philadelphia that's being improved, but I know definitely up in North Philly there is some it's messed up. It's ridiculous that something hasn't been done about that already. My point is that during the crack epidemic and after the crack epidemic, a lot of things went south, and there are a lot of things that could benefit us as a people that is no longer really being passed down. And the next generation, or even some of the generations, like the 90s kids and the early 2000s and so on and so forth, late 80s, some of them don't know the better. They don't know the better, as in there are things to better our lives and so on and so forth. And the system hasn't helped either, because since the crack epidemic, it's destroyed a lot of families. A lot of black men have been thrown in jail. A lot of black women have struggled raising their families. A lot of our people in general have and are struggling with drug addiction, mental illness, alcoholism, so on and so forth. And we as a people are very divided. We got a lot of us killing us, in the neighborhoods and stuff like that. And I get it. A lot of people aren't from the hood. God has blessed you, to not have to experience that. It really wasn't so bad, way back when. It had its bad things about it, but it wasn't nowhere near as bad as it is now. And the thing is that the post crack epidemic generations, there are some who will have this knowledge, but for the most part, a lot of these youth, and even some of these adults don't have the knowledge or the will to pass on, to these upcoming generations to not only better themselves, but better us as a people, and it's crazy, there's ignorance out here, there's stupidity out here, and truthfully, if we don't get ahead of it, a couple generations from now and stuff like that, man, is going to be crazy, for our people. And I have some solutions to this. It's it's a slow going process, because we have a lot of unprogramming to do. A lot of us have come up with certain music, music videos, and just in general of us being portrayed, us as black people being portrayed as the bad guys, you know, pimps, hoes, drug dealers, murderers, rapists, all the criminal elements, for whatever reason, through our music and through television, have been a lot of the role models that our youth have to look up to, and, we've been programmed wrong, that was intentional, by the way, but, we have to reverse a lot of that. And, the solution that I've come to, we can't fix those who don't want to be fixed. We can, however, get to our children and address these issues with our children and teach them better. And, in this case, it really does take a village. It really does take a village to do this with our children. And one of the things that I wanted to do with education reform was change the schools. One, start off to where different things are being learned in the schools other than, the average curriculum. I wanted all of our kids to, learn multiple languages. It's relevant to our heritage, our culture, our roots, not only that, but it helps us to, I guess, become better acquainted with our related ethnicities, so being able to speak Spanish, being able to speak French, being able to speak, some of the native African languages, or even, Asian languages, or, whatever, but being trilingual would benefit our children, when they grow up and become adults. That opens the world up to them, or other places in the world that, some of us who only speak one language wouldn't bother, looking into. Language is important. Heritage is important. History is important. And as we all know, the way that history is taught in school is more geared towards a certain group. American history, most of it is white history. When you really look at it, most of it is white history in the history books. Other than being slaughtered, and stuff like that, there's no real background to the Native Americans, who were slaughtered and who were pushed out of their land, or the Africans, before, being caught up in slavery in regards to slavery relating to America. There were a lot of countries in Africa that are no longer there. Physically, they're there. By name and government, they're not. If you look at a couple of different maps of just the last 200 years, you'll see that quite a few countries have changed their names a few times over. But knowing our history, in regards to art, dance, music, our struggle, the things that we all have in common and the things that we need to know to have self-identity, I wanted those things to be taught. But also mannerisms, professionalism, morals, coming to school, like with mandatory uniforms and stuff like that. Teaching our young men how to dress and carry themselves professionally, teaching our young women how to dress and carry themselves professionally. Classes where, grown men like myself, are mentors. We teach these kids how to tie Windsor knots. We teach these kids about, cologne and things like that. We teach them about being a man, teach them about the responsibilities of taking care of your family. We have problems in the black community. It's not just our community, but this is who I'm addressing in this video. We have problems in our community where there are men with children everywhere, with multiple women, and a lot of these guys aren't. A lot of them are purposely not taking care of their children. There are some that, situations happen where they can't take care of their children, like the mother is hiding the child or, preventing the father, whatever. But that's another issue. We have to reinstill what it is to be a man, you know, uh, and our responsibilities, our goals, our importance, not only to our families, but to our communities. We gotta, as much as people don't want to say it and stuff like that, not only in school, but in the church, we gotta teach about sex. If all these kids have to go off of is pornos and things they see off of television, they're not learning it right. And I mean, I'm not sitting here like saying like teach them exactly that, but there's a lot more than just the physical portion of sex. And a lot of people get that messed up and get caught up in feelings or get seriously hurt or whatever. And I'm gonna make a video addressing the church about that also, but our history, our true history, not just our history, but everyone else's history, is important to really understand history in general. It relates to so much that, we don't even connect the dots to. There are lessons to be learned. There's a reason why, they don't teach this stuff. If we knew better and stuff like that, we do better. But yeah, classes to, help bring these young men up and mentor them. Same thing with the women, or I'm sorry, same thing with the young girls. To have, grown women, teach them how to be women. There are things that a man can't teach a woman, a young girl, about being a woman. And there are things that a woman can't teach a man or a young man about being a man, and a lot of kids just don't have that structure. I know, there are some people who are like, the schools will kind of be raising the kids or whatever, but a lot of these kids is really, really heartbreaking. Excuse me, what some of these kids go home to, the type of parents that they go home to, they really are set up from the get-go, and we as a community need to start instilling things and teaching things in our children that is going to pass down through the generations, and we need to get away from, rap and hip hop and R&B in the sense that it has been, with the violence, with the portraying us in a negative image, or even just with the foolishness, because I'm aware of some of the foolishness in some of the more modern rap. But yeah, we have history in music. We have our jazz, blues. If there is going to be rap and able to resurrect hip hop or something like that, it can be in a more positive light to build us up. Our children are losing out on the art of playing instruments and stuff like that in some cases. There's so much that they're missing out on that could really, really better themselves. The nuclear family, yeah, that's pretty much been destroyed, but it doesn't mean that it can't be rebuilt. And we don't have to educate our children to be employees of other businesses. Excuse me. We could actually raise, and educate our children to become business owners, and make their own money, where they can be home with their family and, create their own work hours and stuff like that. There are all kinds of trade skills that kids could use with technology, with the way things are going with technology. There's computer programming that can be done at home. Excuse me. So it is important, also to teach about family and stuff like that, how a father figure should be, how a male role model should be, how a mother figure should be. And, also we have to teach our children, teach our youth, our black youth and our Latino youth, and, really everybody, but mostly in our community because we don't stick together. That kind of stuff has to be instilled in them. It's been broken out of us for hundreds of years. It has to be reinstilled in us. Being on teams, working together. Which is one of my other ideas as well. Is to have the kids mandatory involved in sports or some kind of club or something like that challenges their mental if they're not physically able. I really want the kids in like self-defense classes as well, so that a lot of these kids will have more confidence in their fighting capability and not so fast to pick up a gun and murder somebody. And I mean, it sounds crazy and it's a lot, but over, 12, 13, 14 years, I mean, these kids are a lot smarter than, we give them credit for, and a lot of our cases are our education system is failing our children. It really is. It's failing our children. Our children are so much more capable of, being so much smarter and so much brighter. And they can only get smarter, with every generation. So we can push our children and we can push them at a much younger age. I've seen it. And, these kids can learn their alphabets before they're even able to speak. Some of these kids can learn sign language before they're even able to speak, before they're able to walk. I've seen it firsthand, and some of us as parents struggle to help our children with homework because we ourselves may have been let down, by the education system. It's not doing its best for our children, but it could be and it should be. We need to get on that. We need to be more involved. We need our people directly involved with the school board and making choices that are relevant towards our children's education. But yeah, the things that are going to save lives and stuff like that, we got to get involved in it. We got to start teaching these kids. It has to be instilled in them. Is it the parents' responsibility? Yes. But in a lot of cases in today's world, the parents don't have the knowledge. They don't have the experience. They don't have the time in a lot of cases. Maybe they're working two jobs just to, provide for the family to do this, which is why, I propose that, it goes down in the education system, which would also provide more jobs for those mentors and the teachers of, select courses. It'll also, with the sports and everything being the mandatory clubs and mandatory sports teams, it helps to build camaraderie, helps to teach our guys to work together. And it also keeps our children busy and off the streets, out of the gangs and, so on and so forth, Like I said, the future, we can't assume that the future is going to be the same as it is now. Back in 1986, if you'd have mentioned half of the stuff that is here now, people would have looked at you like you was crazy. Granted, we were looking forward to like jetpacks and flying cars and all that stuff. But, technology and, just the human race in general was taking such a different turn, a different direction. But we need to do better, and for those of us who do have that knowledge, I believe that it's our responsibility to get involved, start teaching these children and instilling these things in them, because they're going to have, and it needs to be a continuous process. So that way they can instill it in their children and they can instill it in their children. And by generation and generation, we can start, reprogramming, our people to be a whole lot better. more educated, more business oriented, not killing each other, over foolishness and just because, uh, respecting your elders. A lot of these kids don't do that these days. So that's just, something that I wanted to throw out there that is, something that'll help us as a people. And I have more. I will drop another video in regards to this, addressing us. Thank you for your time and for watching this video.